quickly my audience. I do appreciate y'all participating in this, and if I guess you would mind holding it for me. Well, hi, my name is Wade Lyons, and I'm doing a persuasive speech for my public speaking class, and this is going to be on the topic of permaculture. Well, if anybody's wondering what the word permaculture is or even means, think about what it's derived from. The word permaculture is derived from the two words permanent and culture. Basically, it means once you start, you ain't gonna want to stop, so it becomes permanent. But it's not just about an individual culture of a number of people or plants or anything in general. It's about all forms of culture combined as a total. But it specifically is a design science to make this culture come to life. And the three topics that I'm going to be presenting to everyone to present what permaculture is are the three ethics designed behind permaculture, the 12 principles that make permaculture what it is, and everything you can possibly do with it. For the first topic about it is the three ethics. What are the three big ethics that I came across? I found this all on Guy's Garden, a guide to home scale permaculture. The gentleman who wrote this book, unfortunately, has passed away. Mr. Bill Mollison, God rest his soul, created a book that perfectly describes all of this. His three ethics for this are as follows, and this is very strict because of just how honest this is. Care for the earth, care for yourself and those you are directly responsible for, and then, last but certainly not least, set a limit and give back the abundance. Why are these all set that specific way? Very simple. You take care of Mother Nature, she takes care of you. Think about it this way. If you simply put in a simple tomato seed into the ground, you take care of that, you nurture it, you raise it properly. What does that tomato seed do? It gives you back a tomato. But not just one, not even just two. It gives you back an abundance of tomatoes. Well then, guess what? Now you can feed yourself off of that one tomato. And guess what? If you have enough, store some for later. Now you have some food for emergency use. Well, what happens if you create so many tomatoes or so many of any other plant in general that you have an entire abundance of food? Are you going to just throw it away? Heck no, that's wasteful. We give that to our neighbors. We give that to our friends. Why do we need to waste it when we can just give it to other people? That's the entire concept behind it. And then with that thought, with the thought of caring for yourself and those you're directly involved for, obviously you're not going to take care of just yourself. You're not going to eat one tomato and throw the rest away. Well, you got a wife, you got a child, you got your parents, you got the rest of your family. Those you are directly involved with, take care of them. Take care of your family. That's the idea behind it. Well then, you start thinking, what if you want to start thinking about this, you might be thinking, okay, so what does this involve? What makes permaculture what it is? Well, that's where the 12 principles come in. And these are all, they don't have to be in any specific order, but you do have to follow all 12 principles to get permaculture. But it makes it worth it. The first one, plain and simple, sit back and observe. Most people have a big problem with the idea of, hey, I kind of just want to get into gardening, I want to get into raising a dog, get into having a baby, anything and everything that involves taking responsibility. Most people just want to kind of jump right into it. That's not the case with permaculture. It is wisest to sit back and watch and make sure that what you are going to be doing is going to benefit you, the land, and your family. I mean, what's the point of taking care of something if it's just going to fall down to the ground? If it ain't going to go nowhere, there's no point. So that brings us to the next principle. Catch and store energy. While you're watching and observing, start gathering water. Make sure that you're following the state's regulation on gathering water. Make sure that you're following the state's regulation on capturing light from the sun. All this form of energy that can possibly help you with creating an active environment that you are taking care of. And that brings up me to the next principle: obtain a yield. Well, if you're going to be doing all this time, putting all this time and energy into taking care of your stuff, well, are you going to get anything out of it? I.e., planting that tomato seed. Have you properly gotten everything set up so that this tomato seed will be grown into a full tomato plant and you'll actually get tomatoes out of it? If you can't do that, you're obviously doing something wrong. Which moves me on to the next principle of this. Apply self-regulation and accept feedback. Don't go over in abundance. Don't purchase 12,000 acres and plant all 12,000 acres of nothing but tomatoes just to make sure that you can obtain one tomato. That's a waste, a straight up waste. And when it comes down to accept feedback, positive and constructive criticism is always, should be at least, always accepted, no matter what you do. That's plain and simple. That's a fact of life. You should always accept constructive feedback, constructive criticism. Otherwise, I'm sorry, but you're ignorant. That's just a sad fact of life. And then you go on to the next one. The next principle, number 5, is use and value renewable resources and services. Well, if you're after the second principle of capturing and storing energy, well, did you just use all of your energy? Did you use all your resources? What is the best way possible to continuously obtain resources that are going to let you continuously plant over and over to keep this cycle going? Well, what better way than looking into renewable resources? It's an awesome thought to me, at least. And then the sixth one, the middle one, I consider to be the biggest one of all. Produce no waste. So often nowadays, we throw away so many things. Anything ranging from diapers all the way up to electronics. We waste so much, not only as a nation, but as a human race as a whole. I personally believe that everything has a use, and that nothing should be thrown away. I mean, yeah, a used diaper, well, I mean, you can't exactly use it if it's been used by a child, but that doesn't mean we can't recycle it. So, recycling is a very valuable thought, very valuable concept. And quite personally, I believe that there's too much waste in the world. There's literally everything can be recycled as far as I'm concerned. It may not be as easy to recycle, but it is definitely possible to recycle as many things as possible. And that brings me up to the next topic. Designing from patterns and details. Most people have a thought process of making a box garden or just making a straight up hanging garden or something of the sort. Well, after doing research into Gaia's Garden, the permacultureprinciples.com site, and of course the Permaculture Research Institute, it's all come quite obvious to me. Plants around us don't rely on us. Well, if they don't rely on us, they go off of themselves. I've noticed that plants have a tendency to rely on the pattern that they are all involved in. So, for instance, a flower that blooms has a specific pattern of the leaf petals on it. Well, the entirety of the forest follows that same pattern that a flower has, and it blooms out similar to that of a flower. So follow the patterns that are around us. And this goes on to the next one. Integrate rather than segregate. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you think about it, back when the Civil Rights Movement was going on, when the Jim Crows were going on, anything that involved laws that were coming into effect, that were affecting our lives, have this proof. Integration rather than segregation always works. We shouldn't be separating, even if it's plants or people, doesn't matter which. We shouldn't be separating, for instance, a tomato and a bean, because some plants require a specific amount of one resource while another requires another resources. Well, what if two plants have those individual resources that each other need? Put them together. The Indians found this out years back. They called them the sister plants because they all work together to make themselves grow that much better. And that brings me up to the next big topic that I really love. Use small, slow solutions. we don't find out in all of the plants that surround us that they grow fast and quick. No, it takes time for them to grow. It takes time for everything to get nurtured and for nature to grow abundantly. Well, in this process, it's also become quite an obvious topic for me in anything like from mixed martial arts to basically just training in general, actually. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. This is something I've been taught my entire life. And if we're going to be doing something as simple as making our plant life good around us to make it to where we can eat more, I personally think we should be going slow and smooth. Well, that brings me up to the next one. Use and value diversity. That doesn't mean use 3-4 different types of plants. No, what about instead of planting one specific type of tomato, you plant 6 or 7 types of tomatoes? Because now you're not going to have one type of tomato. Now you can have a salad with different tomatoes in it. Plain and simple. You don't need to have one of everything, but it doesn't mean you can't try to have different types of different things. Why not? And that brings me up to the next big topic when it comes down to their sizing proportions. Use edges and value the marginal. Not everyone can have a 1,200 acre farm. Not everyone can plant abundant amounts of crops. So what do people use? They've got apartments. You can use a little hanging garden off of your window. You don't have to use specifically the ground that we all walk on. Instead, we can use what we have available. If you live high up, get a hanging basket. Think of something that can do this so that you can actually integrate your life into this lifestyle. A design science based on the ability for everything to get benefited, not just the plants or just you, everyone. And that brings me up to the very last one, very last principle. Creatively use and respond to change. Nature around us doesn't get whiny, doesn't cry, doesn't, pardon me for saying this, but go cry to its mommy every time a lightning bolt hits a tree. No, it integrates, it rethinks, it does something to make itself better, it grows. Or if it gets hit hard enough, it dies. Not because it gave up, but because the lightning bolt hit it hard enough that it took all of its life. Well, if plants can think of doing this without us even thinking about it, without us regulating how plants grow, can we not try this? If an earthquake happens, are you going to freak out and whine and cry that your house just got lost, or are you going to try to get a new house? If a tornado comes through your place, are you going to get all upset that you don't have a place anymore? For a moment, yeah. But that doesn't mean that you should just outright stop and pout that you don't have a house anymore. Do something about it. That's the idea behind permaculture. Never stop doing anything. Keep going. Keep making better. It'll grow abundantly. And that brings me up to one of the biggest topics of all this is one of my favorite things about permaculture. It's not just a design science for plants. It's not just a thought process for the forest. This can be used anywhere and everywhere, from training your children all the way into plants, all the way through how on earth you're going to make a building. Yes, you can literally put this into civil engineering. You just have to start thinking about it. Do you want to take the next step? I do.
I think that was pretty good.
Thank you.